whether brands really want social media management or do they want social media marketing. Now it's very interesting. Okay, so management will give you customization. Management can give you customization, but marketing gives you personalization, right?
Welcome back to Storytellers Social Summit. Happy World Social Media Day to you again. The marketing aspect of digital marketing. I mean, wow, that is such a bold and powerful statement. When Gajanan proposed this topic, I was over the moon because at the end of the day, we are all passionate storytellers. We are all marketers, and only then does the medium even matter, right? So we are extremely eager about this session. Thank you so much for joining us here. Kirtan will be our lovely host for this session. Before we head there, the cool email reminder you got, yes, that was sent to you through HandySends. Make sure you check them out. And without further ado, over to you, Kirtan.
Thank you, Kaushik, and hello everyone. Happy World Social Media Day once again, and I hope all of you having a lot of fun. So in this session, we have Gajanan, who is going to speak about the marketing aspect of social media marketing. Oftentimes, when it comes to social media marketing, we get lost in questions such as at what time should I post, or on which platform should I post, or how many times should I post in a day, or what is the ROI that I'll get out of social media, and so many more. But then we often forget that there's a word called marketing in social media marketing. So when we posted this topic on social media channels, it created a lot of buzz. The community was excited. And that's when we realized that this topic needs addressing. And in fact, it was Gajanan who came up with this topic. So thank you so much. We cannot thank you enough for it. So before I hand off this session, I'll introduce the speaker himself. Gajanan Sapate is the co-founder and director of SocialChamps Media Private Limited. The last 9 years, he has consulted over 200 brands from 20 countries. And he's cited among the top 50 most influential digital marketing leaders of 2017 by the World Marketing Congress, and the top 100 most smartest digital marketing leaders of 2018 and 19. He has spoken on various national and international forums, such as the World Marketing Congress, National Digital Marketing Summit, World Retail Congress, WordCamp Pune, and much, much more. And I'm sure I've only just touched the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg here. So there's a lot more to this person, to whom his friends and colleagues describe as a passionate teacher. So once again, thank you so much, Gajanan, for joining us today. I have been personally waiting to host you, and I cannot wait any longer. So over to you. The stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Kirtan, and thank you for hosting me. To begin with, I must say a happy social media day to all the viewers. I strongly believe that I owe a lot to social media because not just because it's a bread and butter for us, but it has given a lot to the overall ecosystem, bringing the connectedness and joy among all of us. This topic, what I proposed was out of a gap which I'm constantly seeing, which is constantly rising in the industry, which is the digital is growing, but marketing is not, right? And I wanted to talk about it to create a bit of awareness for both for the students, the students who are trying to make their career in digital, as well as the brands who are looking out for the right agencies to work with. So before getting on to the debate of social media management versus marketing, I think I'll try to set the context more from the way digital has grown in India. So if you look at the growth of digital in India in the last couple of years, it is primarily driven by the penetration of mobile and internet, right? it has grown so rapidly. I mean, if you look at the stats, the mobile internet usage in India is quite a lot than the mobile internet usage in United States. That's because the penetration of mobile, the pace of penetration of mobile in India is very rapid. Now, with that pace, very obviously, a lot of agencies came into ecosystem. A lot of people or students decided to make their career in digital, and likewise, a lot of businesses decided to or started adopting digital. Now, all this happened in a very short span. The growth was very quick. All this happened in a very short span, and the result was digital has started overpowering marketing. And I'll give you a very interesting example here. We worked with state government of Bihar for child marriages and dowry related issues to create an impact using social media in the state. And we realized that a lot of people in the rural areas don't know how to use internet, but they know how to use YouTube. They know how to use WhatsApp, right? They don't know how to use Google. So digital is so much overpowering marketing now that right from the students to clients are talking the language of digital and not the language of marketing. And the most concerning issue across and which I really feel bad about is that the industry is getting commoditized, right? So what does a commodity mean? Commodity mean if something is there in abundance, something which others cannot differentiate, it starts losing its value, right? It becomes a commodity. Now, social media industry is getting commoditized, and if you see, a lot of agencies are giving things like packages. So you've got a gold package, silver package, and you see that they're giving you n number of channels, n number of postings for say 50,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees. But how can that happen, right? I mean, it's not a commodity. And this is something which I'm trying to address in this session of why we should be really giving a lot of emphasis on marketing to ensure that social media does not become a commodity moving forward. So as I said, the overall ecosystem is being somehow groomed in that direction. A lot of clients are, I see the demands are getting commoditized. And I'll tell you some very interesting things which you'll laugh about. So we get clients who say that we want to do Facebook marketing, or they say that I want to make my post viral. Someone says that I want to get 10,000 followers. I say, I get clients who say कि मुझे Twitter पे trend करना है. But fundamentally, why do you want to do that is a big question. And a lot of times this why is missing. And this why is overpowered by the digital or the digital channels per se. And that's where the question comes, whether brands really want social media management or do they want social media marketing? Now it's very interesting. Okay, so management will give you customization. Management can give you customization, but marketing gives you personalization, right? Now customization by definition means fitting into a context, trying to best utilize that resources and try to fit it as per your needs, right? But in a context. Personalization, on the other hand, thinks from the customer's or the consumer's mindset, right? Now what's happening is the social media management mindset will tell you that, okay, I have a package of 50,000 rupees. Now I'll try to create a best fit for client. Now that's the wrong way of looking at your solution, right? Now we'll try to understand a little more about the marketing element of it. So before we get into that, any discussion which starts with client, starts with the objectives, and that's how it should start logically. And when we start discussion with client, a lot of interesting objectives comes up, but I'll talk about some very common, normally talked about objectives. So clients want increase in revenue, they want increase in profitability, they want increase in the brand recall, some wants to do a repositioning of the brand. The different clients come with the different requirements, and at times clients are not very clear about the objectives, right? And that's where the commoditization actually influences their mind, right? So it's agencies' responsibility to ensure that clients are very clear about their own objectives. So I'll give an example here. So we work with a restaurant. So when the restaurant approached us, they said that we want to do social media marketing. But the fundamental question is, which we ask always, is why? They say because we want to increase footfall. Then we ask why. They say because we want to increase profitability. Now, do we want to increase revenue or profitability is a very, very interesting question to think about. So when we had a lot of discussion with them, they said that we want to increase profitability. Now, how do we increase profitability? That's where the shaping of solutioning happens, right? So probably a way of giving them profitability is if I can increase the revenue per table for that restaurant. So if I can do something by which the revenue per table is increased, and that will actually define all course of action. Then I'll start thinking, if I want to increase revenue per table, who would be the right kind of customers I should be approaching to? So would that be a group of students coming for party, or would that be a couple coming for a date, right? So I would need to evaluate different customer segments there to understand what will bring in the profitability and not just revenue, right? So it's very important that agencies shape the mind of clients, trying to understand what exactly they want. I'll tell you another very interesting story of a client we worked with from Indore. Now this client came to us and he said, "Ki Facebook marketing karna hai." And we said, "Why do you want to do Facebook marketing?" He said, "Because it will take my product to masses." We said, "Okay, but why do you want to do it?" They said, "Ki I've got a store, a sweet store, and with marketing, I want to increase footfalls." We again asked, "Why do you want to increase footfall?" He said, "Because I want to increase revenue." So do you want to increase revenue or footfalls? So he thought, and then he said, "No, I want to increase revenue." So fundamentally, again, it changes everything. So if the objective is to increase footfalls, probably the direction of marketing will change, right? And if the objective is to really get revenue, I'll think from a lot of different perspectives. So I can think of a lot of things like, so if he's getting customers from 3 kilometers of radius, can I do something by which people will come from the 4 kilometers of radius? If he's getting, say, 300 rupees average ticket size, can I do something by, let's say, bundled offering to make it 500 rupees per customer ticket size, right? So I can think of a lot of different ways. If a customer is buying one time in a year, can I do something by which he buys once in a month? Can I do something by which he buys twice in a month, right? So there are multiple ways I can think of increasing revenue, right? So what we proposed him is, why not? So we basically asked him about his definition of growth. So we felt that the definition of growth in itself had constraints. So if by increasing footfalls, he's planning to increase revenue, then very soon he'll reach the threshold. So even if we come to a level where he's getting 100% of customers coming from that 4 kilometers of radius, he'll not be able to grow beyond that, right? So that's bringing the limitation on his growth. How do we change the definition of growth, right? If the objective is to increase revenue, right? So then we came up with the thought of, can we go beyond the geographical boundaries? Can we sell your products on internet? And he started laughing. He said that I'm not Haldiram's. Why people will buy from me? I'm very small. So it was a 700 square feet shop. So I'm a very small sweet shop. Why people will buy from us? So we proposed him to do a pilot with just one product. And we did a detailed planning with that one product in terms of defining the customer segments, defining what kind of value propositions which will create the impact, how will we take the product to those people, kind of a thing. And with a very small pilot of 45 days, we thought of doing the pilot for 45 days. We planned everything. So we created a normal one-pager e-com website, and we started selling that product. Now, within 1 week of we starting the campaign, we started getting almost like 15 to 20,000 rupees of daily sales. So which was much more than his store revenue, right? But then there is a scale, right? Now that opened up his mind, and now we talk a language of, can we go global? Right? So that's basically a shift in mindset which happens if the shaping happens in the right direction, right? Now the question is, how do we bring in this element of marketing in social media? I mean, what are the steps a brand or an agency has to take into consideration, right? So I'll try to very quickly talk about certain steps with some examples here and there. So when I was doing MBA marketing, so Philip Kotler is the god, and we all read him. So we had this definition of marketing, and it was like identifying needs and delivering value to customers. And I think this definition is now changed a lot. but this still holds quite true because fundamentally it answers a lot about marketing. So this definition has three key elements of marketing. One is customer, second is needs, third is delivering value. And I would want to add the fourth element to it, which is the objective driven approach, right? So before really planning anything on social media, these are the prime and quick questions a person should be asking or an agency should be asking to brand. So who are your customers? What are their needs? And how do we deliver value to them, right? And then with that, what are your objectives so that we can formulate a strategy? And now let's try to understand each of those things in a little depth. So for example, the first point is identifying customers. It's very important that you understand as much as possible about your customers. So giving a story about the previous example of the store sweet shop. So I told you about that we took just one sweet as a pilot. Now that sweet was called Gajak. It is basically made out of jaggery. And it is very popular among North Indians. So we did a lot of research understanding the buyers for that one product, the behavior of buying, what seasons people buy it more, what kind of craving they have, how do they satisfy their craving if they do not get this product. If they get this product elsewhere, what are the problems and challenges they have, right? So understanding as much as possible about that customer. So more you start getting deeper into it. So for example, in that case, we identified that North Indians residing in different parts of India will have the craving for it. And primarily those who are IT guys would have an appetite to pay, and who are digital savvy will buy it online. So that's where we started defining it. So once you start getting deeper in understanding your customers, can you group them into multiple segments? Because the moment you start grouping your customers into segments, you start prioritizing it, right? So now again, going back in the previous example of restaurants where we wanted to increase the revenue per table. Now there can be multiple segments, right? So couples can be one segment, parents can be, family can be one segment, group of friends can be one segment. And we identified a very interesting segment, which we got to know that is actually spending highest among them, which was the bikers. So bikers were the highest spenders in restaurants. So basically we knew that, okay, if you want to achieve this one objective, this is the segment which should be our core focus area, right? We need to build up a community of bikers coming into that restaurant because they have buying appetite, they're coming with the fancy bags, they're bringing a lot of attention and all those things, social media pe buzz hota hai and all those things. So we could prioritize our efforts because we identified a lot of segments, and we decided to channelize our efforts and things in that direction. Likewise, we work with a brand into hairstyle segment. It is a leading blog in United States. So when they approached us, they said that we want to increase the user engagement. So we asked, so who are your audience? They said, any woman is my audience. So they were into more female-oriented hairstyles. So we then tried and asking them a lot of questions to really define those segments in detail. And then we got some very interesting segments started coming out of it. So for example, working women, for example, teen girls, for example, housewives. Now, all these three segments have a very different way of looking at hairstyle. So for example, a working woman would be willing to pay, but she'll want a modern and sober hairstyle. Unlike a teen, she would want more DIY kind of a stuff. A working woman will have a different time she is available online. Unlike a teen who goes to school, have a different timing they come online. The usage of channel by working women are very different than the usage of social media channels by the teens, right? So that defines the entire game, right? That defines everything, right? From the communication to the channels to the approach for each of those segments, right? And then understanding whether those segments are aligning with the objectives we are setting up at large. Now, once you understand your segments, once you understand your priorities, then you should be spending time to define the personas, right? Each of those customer segments, getting deeper down and defining persona at length. So right from their education, lifestyle, interest, online behavior, sites they visit, content they read, everything you can try to document or figure out in a generalized fashion, of course. And probably doing a detailed discussion in terms of their buying behavior or usage behavior of your product or service. Now, if you do all that, you get a very clear understanding of who your customer is. That is the step one of getting towards marketing. Then step two is identifying the value propositions, right? So for every customer, there are different reasons they're using the product or service, right? So for example, Kurkure trying to position them as a snacks. So they want to showcase it as a value prop that it can be used with your snacks, right? So there are different value props with the same product, different customer segments will perceive. So the perceived value is very different for different value propositions. And value propositions are the reason for which people buy your product or believe in your product. Now, how to arrive at value propositions? There are a lot of exercises which can be done at depth. So for example, defining the pains, defining the desires, social values, motivations, and a lot of other things about them. And I'll give some examples here. So PUBG is quite popular, right? A lot of us play PUBG day and night. And we see this popular trend of kids putting up chicken dinner on their status messages, right? Now, this is a very thoughtful feature because this brings a social value. Now, what does a social value mean? Social value means I take pride in my ecosystem talking about my achievement. Now, my achievement here is that I did chicken dinner, and I would want to talk about it again and again, and I would want to play again and again so as to tell my friends that okay, I'm a pro player, right? So that's a social gain. So likewise, for every product and service, there are a lot of social pains and social gains. There are a lot of different values customers associates with the product. And it's very important that this exercise has to be done at depth to understand the different values a product or service is bringing in front of market. So social media management companies, for example, will always just talk about posting. So they'll post a special day creative. But a marketing company will try to personalize and try to understand what will create the real impact, right? Then once we identified the customer, we identified the value propositions they have, then we move on to the next step, that how do we deliver those values, right? So now we know what are the values which can be communicated to people. And that's where the further discussion happens in terms of what are the channels or logistics to deliver that value. So whether my consumer is there on Facebook, or he's on LinkedIn, or he's on Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat or whatever different media channels out there. And to arrive there, we need to spend time in defining the journey of customer. So a customer journey is basically the entire journey of a customer from from awareness to his buying decision. So what are different touch points a customer go through, online and offline? And then thinking of if we are a digital agency, digitally, how do we really influence the decision making? Now, because we have done the exercise of defining the values, then we know at what touch point, what kind of value can be communicated well to a customer, right? What kind of factors are really influencing his buying behavior? So with those touch points, can we touch on those specific factors so as to have increased conversion happening, right? So you see that a lot of products fail not because the products are not good. It fails because they don't reach out to the right set of people at the right time, right? So if you are planning the journey rightly, you ensure that your product is reaching out to the right set of people at right timing, right? And once we are clear about the customers, the value propositions, and the delivery, then very important thing is that what normally we talk about, the management part of it, right? So management will try to then fit in all this context into the framework, and then we talk about the number of channels, content formats, frequency kitna hai, tool kaun sa use karna hai, budget kitna rakhna, so all technical part. Now the social media management primarily is this only, right? But this makes sense if the previous exercises are done right. Okay. And I believe by now, the audience must have understood the difference between social media management and social media marketing, and the importance of the marketing element. Now the question is, how do we identify the companies who are really delivering social media marketing and not just social media management, right? And it's very easy. There are certain quick things you can notice. So the companies who are doing social media management primarily, you'll see in their communication, they're talking about packages. You'll see they're talking about the number of channels they'll be working upon, number of posts they'll be doing. You'll see that they'll ask you very less questions, and they'll do quick rollout. So you pay them today and they'll start posting from tomorrow. They'll not spend time understanding your business model per se. But the companies who are doing social media marketing will never have packages. They'll rather have a solutioning approach, right? They'll try to identify the suitable channels. They'll be more concerned about impact of post than the number of posts. They'll bug you a lot by asking you so many questions, and they'll take a lot of time to roll out. I mean, they'll take time. Okay, and it makes sense, right? Because you're investing, and they'll have a very moderately high understanding of your business model than the companies who are just doing social media management, right? So this is very important when you're investing. You should have a clear understanding of the partner you're working with, right? And what actually creates a lot of pain to me is when a customer concludes that digital does not work for me, right? So he generalizes because he has had a lot of bad experiences because of working with people who just did the management for him by doing a lot of postings around and stuff, right? And they didn't get results out of it. But when they generalize that digital does not work for me, it really creates, it really hurts. I mean, you feel pity about people, right? Just because he invested and it didn't get results because things were not done right. So yeah, that's pretty much about me. And I think I'll be open to questions. And I hope audience would find this topic interesting. Yep, over to you, Kirtan.
Yeah, thank you, Gajanan. That was pretty insightful, and we could resonate with each and everything that you said. And thank you so much for walking us actually through the process. I mean, those steps that you told, identifying the customers and all that, those actually you walked us through that process, and that was really beautiful the way you told it. So thank you so much.
All my pleasure, Kirtan.
Yeah. So when we put out regarding this topic on social media, we got a lot of questions from the community, and I'd be happy if you could answer some of them.
Sure.
So, the first question is, what are some of the skills that are tagged as must-have for marketers?
So I think a couple of skills, and I would like to talk it in the priority order. The first one is the observation skills. Observation skills is basically trying to look around and understand how customers behave and how do they make their decisions in general normally. Second is understanding the fundamentals of marketing and consumer behavior related things. Third, I would say, is the psychology side of it. So how your communication actually creates the impact, right? And then comes the technical part of what normally we go through as the Google AdWords course or Facebook marketing course and all. So that basically those technical things then start making sense when you understand the basics of marketing.
All right. Thanks, Gajanan. I mean, yes, you touched upon some of the very interesting skills that no one talks about, the observation skills. I mean, pretty much no one talks about it nowadays. And going by your answer, I think we should all go back and revise our Philip Kotler's. Yeah. So the next question is, we talked about social media marketing and social media management. There's one person who has asked a question that, isn't social media driven by metrics? So what would you answer?
Yes. So it's a very interesting question. Okay. So metrics is a crucial part of measuring things right. And again, I would have the same analogy of the management companies will have a different the different metrics put together, right? So the companies who are doing social media management, their metrics will primarily talk about how many posts they did, how many users viewed the content, right? Or probably the how much traffic they brought on the website, right? So these are the primary KPIs they would talk about, and that fits in the management bracket best. But if you look at the marketing companies, they'll have more, so their metrics would be little more consumer centric. So for example, the level of engagement, the actual buying journey, to what extent buying happened, or where exactly the drop is happening. So metrics is crucial, and metrics I think both the companies would be using because the client demands. So but there's a lot of difference, and that difference comes with the perspective of solutioning, I must say.
Yeah, so we have to target the right metrics is what you're saying.
True.
Yes. Okay, so then the next question is regarding content marketing. So a person called Adarsh from the community has asked that is content marketing possible without several tools, especially in the current scenario when everyone is running behind reach and views and impressions? So is it possible to perform content marketing without any tools?
So the tools in itself it's very subjective. I'm not sure what Adarsh is referring to as tools, but I believe if the content is powerful, there are a lot of easily accessible channels per se. So channels like YouTube, WhatsApp, TikTok kind of channels have increased the reach quite a lot. So if you are touching upon the right content piece, and you know whom are you creating it for, again going with the basics, right? So you should know your audiences, you should know what they would be interested in, and then you should be creating the content. So if the basics are right, content works. I think it does not need much of tools as such. Just the right channels can do the job.
All right. Thank you, Gajanan. And moving on to the next question. What is the one thing that majority of marketers don't follow the right way?
So I think from my experience, what I see is the alignment is always the biggest challenge which I have seen. So the alignment of business strategy and marketing strategy. That I see always the biggest gap, and I think we always try to address this from the beginning, because normally, and in fact normally most of the companies work happens in silos. So sales teams work with the sales strategy, marketing teams work with the marketing strategy, and business, the management have a business strategy, and then there is always a gap of alignment. Marketing strategy is not really refined well to support the sales strategy effectively, and likewise your marketing strategy is not aligned as per the business strategy plan. So I think this is the biggest challenge which I normally see with most of the clients. The rest are the regular challenges which I think everyone
yeah. That's a very important answer. That's a very important point that you mentioned, Gajanan, because yes, mostly the teams are not aligned, as you said. And we at Storytellers aim to bridge the gap between sales and marketers. That's our predominant purpose. So we hope we are doing justice to that.
No, sure, you do.
Thank you. Thank you. So the next question is marketing versus social media. Does marketing stand first? I mean, you mentioned what marketing is and what management is. So a person has asked if marketing comes first.
Yes, so I personally believe that marketing definitely comes first, and then comes the media. So there was an era of Google, and now is the era of social media. Tomorrow would be some different era, right? But the fundamentals of marketing will be carried forward. So I would always be biased more towards marketing.
Okay, the next question is, if you have to name the 3 most important aspects of creating a social media strategy or a marketing strategy in general, what would they be?
Objectives, customers, and metrics.
Okay, you pretty much covered that in the presentation. Yeah, so yeah, we'll move on to the final question for the session. What are the top 2 best fit social media channels for the Indian audience?
So it's a very the answer is very contextual. Okay, I mean, there's nothing like I'll give an example. We are working with one of the leading BFSI brand in India, working on the objective of creating the alumni network for them. Now, it's a very defined, objective-driven project, right? For such a project, my channels would be very much limited to the audience they have and the pattern of channels usage for them. Unlike the clients I talked about, so for example, for that restaurant client, we used Facebook and Instagram more because we believe that the bikers would be using it more. Likewise, in the hairstyle segment, we used a lot of TikTok and Facebook related things because that had a better reach, right? So there's nothing like the best two. I would say it's very contextual depending upon the nature of business and the consumers or customers around it.
All right. Thank you, Gajanan. And that brings us to the end of the questions as well. So once again, thank you so much for being here and answering all our questions patiently, and for the insightful session that you gave. So
I loved it equally. And thank you Kaushik and Kirtan for hosting me. I truly loved every moment of it.
Thank you. It was our pleasure, Gajanan. So I'll just give it off to Kaushik, if you'd like.
Again, Gajanan, thank you so much. So you certainly live up to the hype and expectation. So the thing was so my entire passion as a storyteller and a marketer has just been elevated by so many levels thanks to you now. Thank you so much again. So what were your top 2 takeaways from the session? So Gajanan's session was filled with golden nuggets, right? What were your top 2 takeaways? Gajanan and SocialChamps are present on all the platforms, be it Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, anywhere. Shoot out your top 2 takeaways. Let the world know. You make sure you tag Gajanan and the tribe as well, so we can find it, amplify it, and a really cool goodie might come knocking your door. Make sure you bookmark this page if you haven't already, and enable pop-up notifications so that you don't miss out the other cool sessions happening as well. And I will see you in the next one.
Hold up, just before we leave, this summit will not be possible without you, our speakers, and our exquisite sponsors, HandySends. HandySends are the official partners of 𝗦𝘁cie𝗿𝗶𝗹𝗶, arguably one of the best mailing tools out there, right? These cool emails we're sending you, as I mentioned, were sent to you through HandySends as well. So make sure you check them out. They make the life of all developers and marketers alike easy. It's completely plug and play. Make sure you check them out, as I mentioned. And for the summit attendees, they have this cool 6 months for free offer, and their pro plans are at 20% off as well. Make sure you find the link down there, and we will see you in the next session. Make sure you send out all your social shares with hashtag #ThankYouSocial, thanking the power of social and our digital heroes. I will see you in the next session.